How do you edit a how not to short? We're going to go into the workflow of what I do in order to edit a short once it's been filmed. This is our playbook or SOP where we run everything in our business, and that's what we like to share here on the behind the scenes channel. But we'll be hyperlinking this video because it's going to be focusing on the editing. But in order for you to understand what you're editing, the way we script our shorts, you can look at this in more detail later. We really want it to be helpful. We want it to be simple, concise questions. We don't want to ever be dogmatic about something. That's why we ask questions typically at the end. And the first sentence is the premise to the entire video. It is the title. And the end of the videos is how it ties to something we have at the store, because that is how we make this sustainable. Producing the shorts, before we film it, we make a short number, figure out the title, we find out what product's relevant for. Sometimes it's not relevant to any. And a lot of it's built around this in our content master sheet under this shorts section is we fill out almost all of this before you edit. So this title here, what fits, is literally the first words that go on the screen. This is the episode number. It's how long it took me to film because I try to keep track of data like that. It has something to do with SMD carabiners, which means it would probably be helpful to have this video on that product page when we're done. The description is literally already written. And so we don't tag anybody. Nobody was involved in that one. And a related video is that. So all of this is happening in here. And we're handing this over to editors to be on a silver platter. For example, we delete any clips that are 100% unusable. We take photos literally of black, nothing, in between the batches of shorts that we shoot in order to have separation, whether you're looking at on the iPhone or folders. It doesn't help as much in Premiere, but it doesn't matter. When we make this folder here, we put everything in order, and then you have those black frames, and then the next one's first thing you see is literally the episode number and the title and literally the color of the words that go on the screen. We've already copied a template, which this is a blank template with the number. It has everything you need on it, and it's all in order. And there's a folder here called new material. So if you are editing and you have new material where you screenshotted, you downloaded something, and it's not part of the original folder we gave you, we need to download that. So when we open up your project file, that we are able to just download the new material folder and not the entire thing all over again. Our short assets live here. So you could click the Google Drive. This is the three main things that are used inside of a template that has already been copied for you. But if you don't have these three things, Premiere is going to get mad and it's going to be looking for them. And that's what this is referencing. Now, our workflow is going to be a first come, first serve with batches. So if we have more than one editor, we are going to put this available perfectly on Google Drive on a silver platter, and then we're going to text or email each of the editors and say, hey, it's up for grabs. And then somebody might be sick or on vacation or busy with a client, another client, and this gives us the flexibility to be able to push out constant material without having to be stressing out an editor. Now, I'm not going to hire too many editors if I can barely keep up filming to keep the ones that we do have as busy as they want to be with us. So there's a balance between there. Now, this is the link that would link off to batch 5308 to 5312. As soon as I put my name on there all the way down, that means that's my project. I have put my name on it. And this is the deadline. And the deadline would be 2 days from now. And as far as logistics of pay is 1st and 15th when we do our payroll. And we would be paying with Wise if you're international, ACH if you're within the US. Back to editing. The big picture stuff is these first four things here, and that is the max length is 58.9 seconds. I say 58.9 seconds because if it's 59.2, sometimes it renders it as 60 and then it cuts it off on some platforms. Now, under 60 seconds is universal across all platforms, though they're all extending it out to be longer and longer. If I'm going to film a short, it's going to be a short. If I wanted it to be long, I would turn it horizontal and shoot a long video. Now, it's very important to cut either longs or shorts tight. I do not want eternities inside of my videos. An eternity sounds like a 16th of a second at the beginning and end of clips. Do you see the point? Like, it just makes a video sound like it's taking 10x longer than it needs to, even if you double speed it. So you got to cut off that beginning and end of every video tight. Also, we cut out 99% of the ums at this point. Keep the text and the main focus area of whatever we're actually shooting in the safe zone, right? You got like buttons and recommendations for the next videos and all the hearts and stuff. So you got to make sure you're in the safe zone. We got a template for that. The change on the screen has to happen every 3 to 5 seconds. This could be the video punches in. It could be you show what you're talking about. You could change just the text on the screen. You got to keep it constantly moving. That's how shorts work. Keep the dopamine flowing. Now, new material, like I showed you, has to live in the new material folder, so we can only download that. Now, you have to understand there are two types of shorts. Shorts that are filmed to be shorts. They are original shorts. They live nowhere else. And then the other ones are full episodes that are long episodes cut into a short, and usually just one aspect of that. Now, you can see down here in story that we have a full example of how I cut a slow pull test from a long video and cut it into a short. And so you can see the original video, you can see the final cut, and you can see me actually do the whole process there. Now, if you are doing original shorts, you are going to be batch editing, and I'm going to be batch reviewing them because we batch film them, because that is what makes this efficient enough. Now, you got to drop all 5 batches into one timeline with space in between. I know that will make some people who are used to Premiere proper cringe, but you'll see why we do that. It's easier for me to check and adjust if it's all in one spot and I'm not chasing even other sequences. I just want it all in one spot. When I do it this way, it literally only takes me 15 to 20 minutes for each short, which means it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do all 5. And that's editing and texting the videos. Now notice, you're not rendering them. As far as the edit goes for full episodes cut into shorts, you're going to be cutting up the text-free render, not the posted one online. You can see here there's no text and text. If you look at this one, you can see there's text on the screen. So if you are trying to punch in and reuse this either in another video, another full episode, or as a short and you're cutting it up, this is awful to have. And so we have no text versions, which is completely clean from texts from the original one. Yes, you might have to punch in on rendered 1080, which means it's going to be grainy. No one cares in a short. I don't care. Now, you don't want half of a face cut off, or you don't want half of the subject. And sometimes the action is happening horizontally. If you can't twist it, then you can leave the top half completely black and blank if you don't want to punch in, and then add text up there to supplement what they're looking at. So there's like a lot going on when you have to read something and pay attention all within 3 seconds. You can show 2 things at once. So you can show maybe the truck pulling and then a close-up at the same time, which compresses the story, making it information dense. Now, when you download materials for whatever you're working on, please make sure it doesn't change the original file name, which would be this, with a dash and a 1 or something that your computer changed it to. It has to be the original file name. Otherwise, I'm going through and having to manually click each one of these things to line it up with my Premiere. Let's keep a good folder hygiene for this stuff. Now, you're going to upload your project file and the new material folder for anything that's in it back to the Schultz folder that I gave you if you are on our team. Interview process is a little different because you don't have edit access to add that. But if you are on our team, you would. And I would just go back to the folder as soon as you tell me it's done. And then I would download it. Story is very important. And for original shorts, the story is already baked in. It's shot in order with the last try of what I said being the best take. How much does it take to tear this chocolate bar? Can you tear this chocolate bar? Can you rip? Is this chocolate bar safe? That last part is obviously the cut. You don't have to guess which one it is. I usually stop when it turns out good and move on. Now, if you're cutting up a full episode into a short, you're telling a story within the story, not the whole story. Use text to compress the story. So if you just need to convey some information, so there's context, like rub testing the pinch, you just kind of just put that as text and then like maybe start rubbing it. I don't know. You can really compress things. A good example here is how I compressed drop tests from this 4-minute segment into a 48-second thing. And I literally cut nothing useful out of that short. This is the full example for the long into a short. Now, in original videos, the first scene, the first take, the hook, the title, the intro is already baked in. But in longs, it not necessarily. And so 90% of the time, you can find a concise premise for the video. But here's an example right here of where we had to have me say a very short sentence. How strong is this versus this? Because there was none of that in the video. And then it made the rest of it make sense. And if you need something like that, you would add a text block on the screen in the first 5 seconds, explaining what you need and your vision for what that short could be if I did that. Now, we do brain rot sometimes, and you can see what we got 25 million views on, but that is a different type of editing and not relevant for this right now. Now, text. Words tell a story separately. It is not a transcription of what I'm saying. It supplements what I say, and it is what we use to reduce our shorts to be shorter without removing any information. Only the first text has no swoosh. Every other text comes up and swooshes because we want to sometimes use the first frame as the thumbnail, and we want the words to already have been on there. The first text needs to be near the face, if there's a face, in order for us to crop a square image for either our emails or the Instagram feed. You want to have the words in the face, or you want to have words, you want to have a face. You don't want to have half and half. And so you want to make sure the words aren't too far away from the thing you would include. And that's in that first 3 seconds. You can see right here how the swoosh is happening. You don't want to adjust the length of this because then the swoosh is no longer there. If you adjust it and you want it to match the length of something, you do it from the back side. That's what that is. The yellow words, the color is this, in case you lost the yellow words, I guess, but it's just nice to have written down. Words are 99% caps all the time. So that's all caps. It's just that font looks better that way. There's very few times that I would change something like that. Don't cover the most interesting thing happening with words. It would distract from the thing. Don't cover a face with words because the people's eyes are drawn to either a face or words, and you don't want that to be just like on top. Unless you do it, of course, for artistic reasons. Don't have words on screen for less than 2 seconds, unless for artistic reasons. You want to make sure things are up there long enough in order for them to be readable. Keep words concise. We don't want a paragraph on there. There's usually a shorter way to say something. Now, I would be rendering the shorts because I'd be the last person to look at it. At this point, that's how the workflow would go. The schedule, this is how we would use the schedule, and this would be on the content master sheet. You can see everything that we posted on every platform, and what I posted today, this is when I released that, that's today's date. So that is our schedule. Now, you can see I have 2 shorts, 3 shorts here, scheduled out pretty far, but this is real blank. The goal is to have 4 weeks in the bank of that completely filled out, so I'm not making stuff at the last second. And then I hide all this as the days go down, so I can keep the most recent stuff near the top. And I also might film things that are very similar back to back to back because it's the easiest to do, but I don't want to release it back to back to back. We want to have a nice mix between knots and bolts and climbing and caving and rope access. And I can't just have 5 videos on Z3s back to back to back. So we spread it out. And with that schedule, that allows that. Now, posting shorts is something our team does, and this is the whole checklist of making sure we do every little detail correct. It's amazing how hard it is. And that's it. That's the flow from scripting all the way down to posting it. Now, I'm going to edit one short for you in order to give you an example of dropping 5 into a file and showing you what 7 minutes of editing looks like. This is the folder you would have downloaded. You literally drop it all right on the timeline. Go with me. I don't want to lose you yet. Stick with me. And that tells me what I'm looking at when I go to review your short. And so if you look at this, it has the whole premise here. We have the close-up, which sometimes is shown when I'm talking. We have a horizontal pull, a vertical pull, which it's small because if you look at it, it's the slow motion. Now, the reason I might have this is because I'm going to be recycling it for a horizontal because this was such a cool test that I want multiple uses of this footage. But this right here is the original footage that I'd be using for this video. So all that goes there. That's the result. Don't always have to put the result. You can put the text on the screen for the result. And there is either one conclusion I screwed up on, and this might be the real one, or they might both be useful. And that's it. That's the entire short. And then you can see that we have a black frame, black frame, black frame, that. And you can shrink that up, get rid of those. And that's all you do is you would tighten this up. And that's what I'm going to do right now for you. You can see I hold that up. You can see that I hold that up. You can see that I hold that up. You can see that I stopped holding them up. Literally don't even have to watch the other ones.
But it is pretty normal in slacklining. And this is what Rad made before he started making climbing gear. You see where the inspiration came from?
I'm going to leave this eternity so you see how long that makes the short feel if you left that much space there on every clip. I want to show the source of where those came from, so I'm going to leave a little bit of...
And these two web locks on my brake test machine have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of brake tests up to the forces you've seen on this channel since the beginning. But let's put a climbing rope in this and see how strong this is if you were to fall on it before you got the second quick draw in.
Whoo, that's a challenge. That's a lot of words I got to cover up. But let's
see where the inspiration came from. And these two...
See how long that takes? That's crazy. Now listen.
You see where the inspiration came from? And these two web locks on...
So much better.
Slow pull, how long it takes to pull a dynamic rope, should be long enough to...
That is a note for the editor.
The slow pull, how long it takes to pull a dynamic rope, should be long enough to jump to that without, like, making it a shorter clip. But anyways, let's pull.
Okay, so obviously pulling on it is... like all of this can be covering up my words. But you can see here, I have a whole bunch of footage here without audio. That's going to cover up the rest of this.
It's the beginning. But let's put a climbing rope in this. But let's beginning. But let's...
all that gets cut out. Last one. Here we go. That's there. Oh, my Z broke. Notice the audio is after the brake test, so I can separate it out. So I want that audio. Unlink, delete. That is an audio piece of gold I will use later. However, I want to show that part first. I like showing the entire test of something. So
if you were to fall on it before you got the second quick draw in.
Oof. I'm going to cut that right there, right? So that matches that. And I'm going to probably lower the volume on that. And I'm going to want it to match this. Now, I don't want to make this the same length of this because I want to have people see the brake test in real speed. So I'm going to click R there, then tighten that up, change the audio a little.
Quick draw in.
So now I can drag these over and I can show the horizontal happening. Say about that much of it. And then I could match it up with this one. So I make the slow-mo bigger. I'm going to bring this down to the part of the screen that's not being used. And that's interesting, and then it's no longer interesting. So we're going to take this. I don't need more than that. This is all the way to the cut, or all the way to the break. So if I click R, it'll match this. Speed, duration, maintain audio. This is where that audio clip comes in. Right after that break right there on the slow motion, I just drag this over. And there we go. Let's watch that.
This channel since the beginning. But let's put a climbing rope in this and see how strong this is if you were to fall on it before you got the second quick draw in.
Oh, my Z broke. So that pin is stronger than the rope, but at the end of the day, it's no different than your quick draw, which is great. Okay, so obviously I don't want both of those. Suppose that's what I want to happen because technically this is as strong as a dog bone. It didn't convey, I want to show a dog bone if I say dog bone, so I'm going to get rid of that one. So that pin is stronger than the rope, but at the end of the day, it's no different than your quick draw, which is great.
And that's stronger than the 22K units rated for.
Because I really want to emphasize the point of this, I'm going to leave that. I don't feel like it is too draggy. There's that. And if I'm not looking at it through it here, so that means I probably did it correct here.
This is a belay resistor, so if the belayer is a lot lighter than the climber, this will help prevent them getting sucked up into the climber or the quick draw. This will or the quick draw. You're not supposed to fall on this, but if you do, it's super strong enough. But if you fall on the second quick draw, this gets pulled up, putting a little bend in the rope, adding a little resistance. We got these and other types of resistors at hownotto.com.
That's the end. That is the entire time it takes to edit that short. So the text, these are the first two texts. I just drag that over and I drag it over to the first part right there. And then I take the end and I'm just going to do this. And when it's time to do these, I'm just going to copy them. So that's the first start of it. And now we tell a story. So that's what if you fall on it.
How strong?
I sure like that. What if you fall on it? Damn, that's easy.
How strong is this pen? This is not.
So the thumbnail could very likely be that. This is the square that it would be when we crop it.
How strong is this pen? This is not a normal thing in climbing, but it is pretty normal in slacklining.
So this is where you have to tell the story, right?
Climbing, but it is pretty normal in slacklining.
Now you can see that kind of covers.
In climbing, but it is pretty normal in slacklining. And this is what Rad made before he started making climbing gear. Do you see where the inspiration came from?
So if I hold the mouse there, it says 7 seconds. That's a little long. So
normal in slacklining.
So we are going to cut that down. We do not have to have text on everything. This is a weblog. That's what it is.
In slacklining. And this is what Rad made before he started making climbing gear.
Jump it up.
Climbing gear. Do you see where the inspiration came from?
So I can see the inspiration. That does reinforce it.
In climbing gear. Do you see where the inspiration came from? And these two weblocks came from. And these two weblocks on my brake test machine have seen hundreds and hundreds of brake tests up to the forces you've seen on this channel, hundreds of brake tests.
Brake tests are high. I don't necessarily need to say
up to the forces you've seen on this channel since the beginning. But let's put.
There we go. We just made it shorter.
On my brake test machine have seen hundreds of brake tests. But let's put a climbing rope in this and
we didn't lose anything by cutting that out.
And see how strong this is if you.
So visually, there's already, I really want the audience to understand what's going on here. So I'm not going to put text on the screen.
And see how strong.
So if you're not watching with audio, that's still very interesting just so you can keep up with the story.
This is if you were to fall on it before you got the second quick draw in. Oh, my Z broke.
I don't know if there's anything to add on the brake tests because the brake tests are interesting by themselves. The yellow in the middle there.
So that pin is stronger than the rope, but at the end of the day, it's no different than your quick draw.
Check that out. All this. I bet you won't miss it.
Pin is stronger than the rope. It's no different than your quick draw, which is great. Stronger than the rope. It's no different than your quick draw, which is great. And that's stronger than the 22K.
And this has been on the screen for over 2 seconds, so it's readable.
Which is great. And that's stronger than the 22K units rated.
And we could draw the eyes up to the 23. And we could, if we wanted to. Because I want people to understand it's rated for 22. They see a bigger number. That was the point of that scene. And you can get that across to them very quickly.
Fold up, putting a little bend in the rope, adding a little resistance.
You don't want to signal that the short is done until, you're okay with them swiping away. So then we drew attention to the store at the end. It's a very short plug. But now, if this is as far as you edited it, now this is edited nice. However, because I know all of my content, I would be able to make this a little bit better in a very short period of time, which I'm okay with. If I do go to shorts and I type in Z, there's a handful of clips, Z versus Ohm. And if you look at this 5258 and you go to our media and you go to our shorts and finish shorts, 5258. I take this video clip and I paste it in new material. And then I drop it in here and I find a spot that shows those guys falling. I drop that there.
Belay resistors, so if the belayer is a lot lighter than the climber, this will help prevent them getting sucked up into the climber.
So all of that is very helpful to understand what it's even for. So I'm going to take that to my line there.
Quick draw. You're not supposed to fall on this, but if you do it, it's super strong.
I don't like it to be that close to the safe zone.
Draw. You're not supposed to fall on this, but if you do it, it's super strong enough. But if you fall on the second quick draw, this gets pulled up, putting a little bend in the rope, adding a little resistance. It's super strong enough. But if you fall on the second quick draw, this gets pulled up, putting a little bend in the rope, adding a little resistance. We got these and other types of resistors at hownotto.com.
So you can see here that there is something different happening all the way through here. It looks evenly dispersed. There's no long section of nothing happening. This is what the longs look like too. From the top.
How strong is this pen? This is not a normal thing in climbing, but it is pretty normal in slacklining. And this is what Rad made before he started making climbing gear. Do you see where the inspiration came from? And these two web locks on my brake test machine have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of brake tests. But let's put a climbing rope in this and see how strong this is if you were to fall on it before you got the second quick draw in. My Z broke. So that pen is stronger than the rope. It's no different than your quick draw, which is great. And that's stronger than the 22K units rated for. This is a belay resistor, so if the belayer is a lot lighter than the climber, this will help prevent them getting sucked up into the climber or the quick draw. You're not supposed to fall on this, but if you do it, it's super strong enough. But if you fall on the second quick draw, this gets pulled up, putting a little bend in the rope, adding a little resistance. We got these and other types of resistors at hownotto.com.
Wonderful. And all I have to do is hit Control Save. And then I would upload that project file and the new material up into that folder. And that's it. But you can see those judgment calls on how much to cut. After I already cut it, I was able to shorten it up. Adding the text tells a different story or re-emphasizes the story you're already trying to tell. And those are the things we're looking for from editors who are going to be on our team, because all those same principles apply to a long. It's just more complicated. If you're interested in being a part of our team, hownotto.com/careers is in the description. And if you want to see media, retail, or business content, we got 3 playlists here on the How Not To Behind the Scenes channel. Cheers.